So we have Bob, our VP of Construction, joining us today to go over a little bit more in depth on how to build our AR home from the ground up. Hello, Bob.
Hello.
Thank you for doing this with us today.
My pleasure.
So when speaking of building a home, again, from the ground up, there's a lot of construction practices that really set our homes aside from most builders. When we start looking at the foundation solely, what comes to mind in terms of our practice that is unique to us, and really what is our typical process for our foundation?
Yeah, you hear a couple key phrases. You got to have a good foundation to build a good house, and then you always start from the ground up. Here in Florida, it's a little different in that we have to meet certain floodplain requirements. So up north, most of the time when you start construction, you actually dig a basement and get down to good solid soil to be able to place your footer and then your foundation on that. Here in Florida, we actually have to import soils in to support the dirt to bring the house up above the standard floodplain. First thing we do is we actually take soil borings of the proposed footprint of the house on the lot, and we get the results back. And sometimes there's muck, vegetation that needs to be removed, or something that's actually down in the soil that we don't see. So we have to excavate all of that out before we can start bringing in solid material. As we bring that in, we bring it in and do what they call 1 foot lifts. We build it up in 1 foot increments. And as we do that, we actually compact the soil to 98% of the compaction. So at that point, we build the lot up to where we got a good solid base, and then we actually come in, set our form boards for the outside of the perimeter of the house, for the footer and the foundation, and then we come back in and actually dig next to those form boards to drop the footer down back to good solid soil. We run steel rebar in all of the footers, all the interior bearing walls, anywhere where there's electric recessed outlets in the floor, recessed showers. We actually excavate those areas so we get a good thick concrete base at all those locations so you don't end up with a cracked slab. The slab is monolithic, which means it's all poured at one point. You got all of your bearing walls, your footer, and the concrete slab all tied in, and then that is where then we've got rebar at 4 foot increments around the entire house that's set in the block that are then poured to create your foundation.
Fantastic. And is that something too that I've been told we have a stronger PSI typically poured with as opposed to most builders? Do you have any light to shed there?
The pound per square inch of the concrete is 3,000. Typically that's more of a compression more than an uplift. Again, we're basing the house at 2,500 as far as a minimum on the soils. The concrete does add additional strength and compression there. It also adds additional uplift. Here in Florida, we're not really concerned so much about the house sinking so much, since we do a good job of building the base. But with inclement weather, we can have uplift too of the strong winds, so that helps keep that house tied down and in place.
And is there anything additional in terms of the fiber mix that we use for our concrete itself that you'd like to share?
The fiber mesh is good. A lot of builders use just the steel. The problem with that is that can get stepped on or walked on, and actually pushes it down towards the bottom of the interaction or the interface between the concrete and the soils, and that's not good. You actually want that material up in the middle of the concrete. With fiber, you don't have to worry about it. It's throughout the whole thickness of the slab.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for the foundation side of things.
Absolutely.